The calm before the storm, hook and suspense. In the depths of space, far beyond the reach of any known civilization, a terrible empire stretched across countless worlds. The Zarnax were known throughout the galaxy as the deadliest species to ever exist. Their blood-red ships glided through the stars like silent shadows, their soldiers ruthless, and their technology far superior to anything humanity had ever imagined. The Zarnax had crushed world after world, bending every species to their will. They were the galaxy's supreme rulers, and nothing could challenge their power. But there was something strange happening, something that even the mighty Zarnax could not ignore. For decades, the Zarnax had left Earth alone, deeming the planet unworthy of attention. They knew the humans were a primitive species, far behind in the grand scheme of galactic civilizations. Humans had no advanced technology, no weapons to speak of, and no true understanding of the stars above them. They were no more than a footnote in the galaxy's history. Yet, as the Zarnak fleet sailed smoothly across the cosmos, a strange signal broke through their advanced scanners. It was weak, almost faint, but it was unmistakably there. At first, they dismissed it as a glitch, a random bit of space static. But the signal kept coming. It was not a random occurrence. It was a message, a pattern hidden within the noise. The signal had a strange resonance to it, one that seemed almost intelligent. The Zarnak's interest was piqued. They sent a small fleet to Earth, expecting to find nothing but the same primitive creatures they had ignored for centuries. The leaders of the Zarnak Empire ordered a quick investigation, confident that the humans would pose no threat to their unstoppable war machine. As their fleet approached Earth's atmosphere, the sight of the blue planet brought only amusement to the Zarnax. They watched from space as the humans scurried below like ants, unaware of the great empire watching over them. The Zarnax had conquered entire star systems, reduced whole planets to ashes, and enslaved species with far greater abilities than these fragile creatures. Their ships cut through the atmosphere, landing silently in the distant deserts of Earth. It was there that they first encountered the humans, armed with nothing more than curiosity and primitive tools. The Zarnax watched as the humans looked up in awe at the alien technology, unafraid of the ships that loomed over them. The aliens thought nothing of it. These humans would be no different from the countless species they had crushed before. But then, something happened. It wasn't much, not at first. A handful of humans, poor, unarmed, and barely aware of the threat before them, began to move in strange ways. They didn't flee or panic as expected. Instead, they studied the ships with intense focus, making mental notes of every detail. The Zarnax laughed, seeing the humans' ignorance as nothing more than a brief curiosity. The humans, they thought, had no idea what was coming. Yet, as the Zarnak commanders observed the humans, something unsettling began to grow inside them. There was a spark, an odd glimmer of intelligence in their eyes. The humans didn't just look up at their ships in fear. They looked at them with something else, something the Zarnax had never expected: defiance. The Zarnax hadn't seen that before. In all their years of conquest, not a single species had ever dared to face them with defiance. It was almost as if the humans had a fire inside them that no one could extinguish. The humans might have been primitive, but they were far more than they seemed. And then the signal that had originally caught the Zarnax's attention began to change. It grew clearer, stronger. It wasn't just a random burst of information. It was something deliberate. It was as if something, was sending them a message. But from where? How could a species so far behind technologically be capable of such a thing? The Zarnax, uncertain for the first time in many years, decided to remain in orbit. Their fleet loomed large over Earth, watching the humans below. The signal was still coming through, stronger now, and it was impossible to ignore. The Zarnax had been wrong before, so they waited. But as the humans below continued to build, to innovate, and to understand the alien technology scattered across their planet, the Zarnex realized that the humans were not as helpless as they had thought. Something had awakened within the humans, something powerful, and the Zarnex, despite their arrogance, couldn't yet understand what it was. The calm before the storm was almost over. The Zarnex had awakened the sleeping giant of humanity, and now the true test was about to begin. The mysterious signal. The Zarnex watched Earth from their ships, uncertain and wary. What had initially seemed like a simple, primitive planet now felt different. The humans, once dismissed as weak and insignificant, were showing signs of something new, something they hadn't expected. The signal they had detected was growing stronger by the day, and it had become clear that the humans were not just random creatures, fumbling in the dark. They were learning. They were evolving. The Zarnak leaders decided it was time to investigate further. They sent their most skilled scouts, silent as shadows, to monitor the humans up close. These scouts were expert infiltrators, capable of blending in with their surroundings, remaining unseen by even the most advanced sensors. They reported back strange observations. Humans were studying the alien technology left behind by previous invaders. They had discovered something in their old ruins. The humans were beginning to piece together what the Zarnex had left behind. Slowly but surely, they were understanding the technology. Weapons once thought impossible to create by such a primitive species were now within their grasp. The Zarnex had never considered that humans could have the capability to reverse engineer their technology, much less use it to their advantage. As the humans unlocked the secrets of alien technology, a series of seemingly minor events began to unfold. People who had never before seen a real weapon suddenly discovered how to wield it. Engineers who had only worked on basic machinery began constructing things that could rival even the Zarnex's own technology. The humans weren't just trying to defend themselves. They were gearing up for something bigger, something the Zarnex couldn't yet comprehend. Back on their ships, the Zarnex began to grow uneasy. How could a species so far behind technologically start to understand their technology? It didn't make sense. And yet, the evidence was undeniable. Every day, the humans seemed to grow stronger, more capable. They had found something hidden within their own world, something buried deep in their history. The Zarnak scouts had reported that the humans were gathering in secret locations, constructing weapons, and sending encrypted messages that even the Zarnaks couldn't fully decode. What once seemed like simple creatures trying to survive was now becoming a very real threat. The Zarnak's advanced intelligence network struggled to keep up with the speed at which humanity adapted. It wasn't just technology they were gaining. It was something more, something that made them more unpredictable, more dangerous. The signal continued to pulse, its frequency growing more distinct, as though calling out to something deeper within the human race. The Zarnaks began to question what they had always believed, that they were invincible, that no species could challenge them. The humans were proving them wrong. At the same time, the Zarnaks realized something even more alarming. The humans were no longer just reacting to the threat. They were preparing for something. For the first time, they weren't simply afraid. They were planning. They had something in mind, and whatever it was starting to take shape. Meanwhile, on Earth, humans continued to study the technology they had uncovered. One group, a secret collective of scientists and engineers, had managed to decode part of an ancient weapon blueprint, one that could rival the Zarnak's most advanced weaponry. As they worked day and night, they built prototypes of these weapons in hidden laboratories. The first test shots were promising. Humans had not only figured out how to use the alien tech, but they were already starting to build it better, stronger, and more efficiently than the Zarnaks could have imagined. The Zarnak's fleet remained in orbit, watching Earth closely, trying to predict what the humans might do next. But despite their superior knowledge and technology, they could not foresee what would happen when humans discovered their true potential. The galaxy's most feared species was about to face something it had never encountered before, a species with the ability to fight back and a desire to survive at any cost. The mysterious signal that had begun as a mere whisper was now an undeniable force, echoing through the void. It was a warning, not just for the Zarnax, but for the entire galaxy. Humanity had awakened, and they were not going to let anyone, especially the Zarnax, take that away from them. This second part keeps up the intrigue, showing how humanity begins to rise with the help of alien technology, surprising even the deadly Zarnax. The suspense builds as the humans' growing capabilities make them a legitimate threat, and the Zarnax begin to realize that Earth may not be the easy target they thought it would be. Humanity's defiance. The Zarnax were not accustomed to being challenged. Across the galaxy, they were known for their swift conquests and their ruthlessness. Every world they invaded fell within days, the inhabitants either wiped out or enslaved. The Zarnax never faced a fight they couldn't win. But as their ships hovered above Earth, they began to feel something strange, a growing unease, a feeling that they were no longer in control. On the surface of Earth, the humans were no longer cowering. They had taken the alien technology and were using it in ways the Zarnax hadn't predicted. The first signs of resistance came in the form of small skirmishes. At first, they seemed like isolated incidents, groups of humans armed with newly created weapons attacking Zarnax scouts. But these humans didn't run after the first few shots. They fought back with coordination, surprising intelligence, and a level of ferocity that caught the Zarnax off guard. The humans were not just defending their planet anymore. They were becoming an organized force. Using the technology they had scavenged and studied, they began to construct weaponry capable of damaging the Zarnax ships. They learned how to create armor-piercing ammunition, built primitive laser rifles, and crafted explosives that could disrupt the Zarnax highly advanced shielding. It was a far cry from what the Zarnax had seen before. The Zarnak leaders, who had been watching from above, now found themselves in a dilemma. The humans were fighting back, but they weren't retreating like the others they had conquered. These humans, though primitive in their origins, were standing their ground with a defiance the Zarnax had never encountered before. It wasn't just the weapons they were using. It was their spirit. It was something the Zarnax couldn't control, something they hadn't prepared for. The Zarnax deployed their warriors, their most lethal troops, to crush the humans once and for all. These soldiers were renowned for their strength and speed, able to tear through entire civilizations without breaking a sweat. But when they landed on Earth, something unexpected happened. The humans fought back with a resourcefulness that the Zarnax hadn't anticipated. They used the terrain to their advantage, setting traps and ambushes that delayed the Zarnak advance. Humans fought like they had nothing to lose, because, in many ways, they didn't. One battle in a remote forest became a symbol of humanity's newfound strength. A small group of Zarnak warriors was ambushed by a group of humans armed with makeshift weapons and explosives. The Zarnax, accustomed to overpowering their foes, found themselves being pushed back. The humans, using the natural cover of the trees, made guerrilla-style attacks, damaging Zarnak armor and disabling their weapons. It was a surprising victory, one that sent ripples of fear through the Zarnak commanders. The humans had won a battle, but the war was far from over. The Zarnak fleet, hovering above the planet, had expected a quick victory. But now they were faced with something they had never encountered, a race that was not only fighting for survival, but adapting faster than they had ever imagined. The Zarnax had underestimated the power of humanity's will. The more they fought back, the more they discovered about themselves and their potential. The Zarnax's next step was clear. They had to crush the humans before they could unite and organize into a real threat. They began to send larger waves of soldiers, attacking cities with overwhelming force. The humans were pushed into defensive positions, but even in the face of such an onslaught, they did not break. Every attack they repelled, every Zarnak ship they downed, made them more determined. The Zarnak's arrogance was fading, replaced by a creeping fear. They had thought the humans were a weak, defenseless species. They had thought that after a few swift strikes, the humans would fall. But the humans were not just fighting to survive. They were fighting for something more. They were fighting for their freedom, for their future, and for the survival of their species. As the war between the humans and the Zarnax escalated, it became clear that humanity had something the Zarnax couldn't understand: an unbreakable spirit. It was a spirit that no weapon, no army, could defeat. The humans were not just defending their world, they were beginning to rise. They were becoming a force that even the most feared species in the galaxy could not easily crush. This part highlights humanity's defiance, showing that the Zarnax are facing a new kind of challenge. The humans' growing resistance forces the Zarnax to reevaluate their assumptions and begin to realize that they are facing something far more dangerous than they ever expected. The tension builds as the humans prove their resilience and willingness to fight back, no matter the odds. The unseen power of humans. As the Zarnax attacks grew fiercer and their strategies more brutal, something unexpected was unfolding beneath the chaos. Humanity, though still outnumbered, was learning how to exploit the very weaknesses the Zarnax had assumed they never had. The Zarnax had underestimated their opponent, and now they were beginning to see the results. The humans, driven by a primal instinct to survive, were far more resourceful than the Zarnax could have imagined. Earth's natural terrain, once considered a disadvantage in a galactic war, became an ally in humanity's struggle. The humans adapted quickly, using their knowledge of the land to outsmart and outmaneuver their enemies. In cities, forests, mountains, and deserts, the humans set traps, built hidden underground bases, and created ambushes. They had learned to use everything at their disposal, from makeshift weapons to the terrain itself, to fight back against the much more powerful Zarnax. It was guerrilla warfare on an unprecedented scale, and it was working. The Zarnax soldiers, accustomed to overwhelming their enemies, were now facing guerrilla tactics that turned every battle into a dangerous guessing game. One key turning point came in the dense jungles of South America, where a group of Zarnax soldiers, having tracked down a group of human fighters, were ambushed. The humans, familiar with the terrain, struck from the shadows, using advanced explosives they had crafted from alien technology. The Zarnax, confident in their armor and weaponry, didn't expect an attack so well coordinated. They were caught off guard, and for the first time, the humans struck a deadly blow, destroying a key Zarnax command center. The humans had no heavy artillery or warships, but they had something more potent: their minds and their resilience. The Zarnax, watching from their ships in orbit, were shaken by this victory. Their warriors were strong, but the humans were proving to be something else entirely. They were unpredictable, relentless, and starting to show a level of military strategy that the Zarnax had never expected from a race so primitive. The more the humans fought back, the more they learned, and each victory, no matter how small, pushed them closer to matching the Zarnax power. Humanity's defiance, fueled by sheer willpower, was evolving into something even more formidable. The Zarnax had believed that their advanced technology would always give them an edge, but the humans had discovered something that the Zarnax could not have anticipated: unity. Across the world, people from different nations and backgrounds, who once had no common cause, now united in the face of a common enemy. Their diverse cultures, once divided, became one strength. They shared knowledge, technology, and battle tactics, creating a resistance force that grew stronger by the day. The Zarnax's superior technology seemed to have no answer for this unity. They deployed their most advanced war machines, ships with energy shields and plasma cannons capable of obliterating entire cities in seconds. But the humans had developed new methods of attacking. They used the alien technology they had uncovered to create weapons capable of bypassing the Zarnax defenses, targeting weaknesses in their advanced shields and weapon systems. In one of the most dramatic encounters, a group of human engineers and soldiers managed to disable a Zarnax battleship mid-flight. They had hacked into the ship's systems, using the very alien technology the Zarnax had thought they had control over. The Zarnax's own technology was now being used against them, and the ship came crashing down into the ocean below. It was a devastating loss for the Zarnax, and a clear sign that the humans were no longer just surviving. They were becoming the hunters, not the hunted. But the Zarnax were not finished. They had lost battles, but they were still an empire built on fear, and they knew they could not let this continue. They prepared for a final assault, hoping to crush the human resistance once and for all. They would no longer underestimate their enemy. They would eradicate the humans and show the galaxy that their empire could not be challenged. However, the humans' victory at each stage, however small, continued to fuel their determination. It was becoming clear. The Zarnax may have superior technology, but the humans had something far more dangerous, a burning desire to fight for their home and their future. The Zarnax had never faced an enemy like this before. And as the battle raged on, one thing became certain. The war was far from over. The humans had only just begun. This part of the story illustrates how humanity, despite being outmatched, begins to turn the tables on the Zarnax by using their environment, developing new technologies, and uniting in a common cause. The Zarnax overconfidence begins to crumble as the humans prove that resourcefulness, adaptability, and unity can be just as powerful as advanced technology. The suspense continues to build as both sides prepare for the ultimate showdown. The ultimate weapon. The war between the Zarnax and humans had reached a boiling point. The Zarnak fleet, which once seemed invincible, was now facing resistance on all fronts. Every day, the humans learned, adapted, and fought back. And every victory they achieved, no matter how small, was a reminder to the Zarnax that their conquest of Earth might not be as easy as they had thought. But the Zarnax, desperate to maintain control, had one last, terrible weapon in reserve, the Doomsday Device. This super weapon, hidden deep within the Zarnak fleet, had been kept secret from all but the highest commanders. It was a planet-destroying device, capable of wiping out entire worlds with a single strike. The Zarnax had designed it as their ultimate deterrent, a tool to keep any species from challenging their rule. They had tested it on uninhabited planets, and the results were devastating. No species had ever survived its power. The Zarnak leaders, realizing that they were losing the war to a species they had once thought beneath them, decided that they would use the Doomsday Device to finally crush the humans. They would eradicate Earth and ensure that no other species would ever dare defy the Zarnax again. The plan was set in motion. The Zarnax moved the massive device into position, preparing to unleash its full power on the planet. As the device hummed with energy, a dark shadow fell over Earth. It was only a matter of time before the weapon would be activated, and nothing could survive its fury. But the humans, determined to fight until the very end, had not been idle. Word of the Zarnax plan had spread among the resistance, and a daring group of human engineers and soldiers hatched a plan to infiltrate the Zarnak mothership, the heart of the invasion force. They knew that if they could destroy the Doomsday Device before it could fire, they might have a chance to turn the tide of the war. A team of elite human operatives, led by a brilliant engineer named Alex Carter, began their mission. They infiltrated the Zarnax's most heavily guarded ship, moving through its corridors with stealth and precision. Using the alien technology they had adapted for their own use, they managed to disable the Zarnak security systems and reach the core of the mothership, where the Doomsday Device was housed. The Zarnak soldiers were relentless, but the humans knew they had only one chance. Every moment counted. The team split up, each soldier tasked with disabling different sections of the device. Carter and his group of engineers worked feverishly to understand the alien mechanisms, using their knowledge of Zarnak technology to sabotage the device's power core. But the Zarnax, though shaken by humanity's unexpected resistance, were far from foolish. They quickly realized that the humans had breached their ship and were attempting to destroy the weapon. In a desperate bid to stop them, the Zarnak commanders activated the ship's self-destruct sequence, hoping to take the humans and the Doomsday Device down in one final explosion. With time running out, Carter's team managed to place the final charges on the core, severing the power supply to the Doomsday device just seconds before the self-destruct countdown reached zero. The Zarnak mothership shuddered as the explosion rang out across the void of space, but the Doomsday device was neutralized. As the Zarnak flagship erupted in a brilliant explosion, the remaining Zarnak forces began to retreat, realizing they had lost their last hope of victory. The humans had struck a decisive blow against their would-be conquerors. The massive weapon, capable of wiping out Earth, had been destroyed, not by superior firepower or overwhelming force, but by the cunning, bravery, and quick thinking of a few brave individuals who refused to give up. The news of the destruction of the Doomsday device spread quickly across the Earth. The human resistance had delivered a blow to the Zarnak Empire that would be felt across the galaxy. The Zarnaks had been defeated in a way they had never anticipated. Not only had humanity survived their greatest weapon, but they had turned the tide of the war. The Zarnaks, now reeling from the loss of their superweapon and the growing strength of the human resistance, began to pull back. They had underestimated humanity, and it had cost them. The humans had shown that they would never surrender, no matter the odds. But this victory, though monumental, was not the end. The Zarnak fleet was still out there, and the war was far from over. Humanity had struck a decisive blow, but the fight for Earth was far from finished. The Zarnaks would not give up easily, and the final battle was yet to come. This part highlights humanity's resourcefulness and determination as they sabotaged the Zarnak's ultimate weapon, preventing Earth's destruction. It emphasizes the strength of human ingenuity and the unwavering spirit that has been driving the resistance. As the Zarnaks retreat in shock, the stage is set for the final conflict, with humanity standing stronger than ever. The war escalates. The destruction of the Zarnak's Doomsday device sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy. It was a victory that no one thought possible. A small, seemingly insignificant species had just thwarted the most powerful weapon in the universe. The Zarnaks, though they had retreated for now, knew they could not afford to let humanity's defiance go unpunished. With their plans for Earth nearly destroyed, the Zarnaks gathered their remaining fleet in the depths of space, preparing for a final, all-out assault on the human race. They would wipe out any traces of resistance and ensure that no species could ever rise against them again. The Zarnaks' pride had been wounded, and they were determined to destroy the humans, once and for all. On Earth, the victory over the Doomsday device had sparked a renewed sense of hope and unity among the human resistance. The news spread like wildfire across the planet. Humanity had won a battle that seemed impossible. For the first time, the humans felt like they had a real chance to defeat the Zarnaks and save their world. But the Zarnaks' retreat was only temporary, and everyone knew that the real war was just beginning. The Zarnaks weren't retreating out of weakness. They were regrouping, preparing their ultimate assault. They sent out a fleet of warships so vast that the sight of them was enough to make any species tremble in fear. The fleet was equipped with advanced weaponry, impenetrable shields, and forces strong enough to crush entire planets. Earth was now their primary target, and they were ready to unleash the full fury of their empire. As the human resistance worked to strengthen their forces, something unexpected began to happen. The stories of humanity's resistance spread beyond Earth. The Zarnak's cruel empire had oppressed countless alien species across the galaxy, and now many of these civilizations began to take notice. A movement, sparked by humanity's courage, began to grow. Rebellions flared up on other worlds, worlds that had long been under the heel of the Zarnak Empire. From the distant mining colonies to peaceful worlds once enslaved by the Zarnaks, species who had suffered for centuries now found hope in humanity's resilience. They saw how a small, struggling species had fought back against an empire that had dominated the galaxy for so long. They saw a chance to break free from their chains. Alien leaders from all over the galaxy, many of whom had suffered under Zarnak rule, sent envoys to Earth, offering their support. These new allies brought with them invaluable resources, ships, weapons, and intelligence on Zarnak tactics. Together, They began to build an alliance that could challenge the Zarnak Empire on multiple fronts. But the Zarnaks, when they saw the growing rebellion, only hardened their resolve. They were no strangers to rebellion. They had crushed uprisings on countless worlds. But this time, they were facing something entirely different. They were facing not just a few scattered rebellions, but a united force of multiple species, led by the humans, who were now beginning to command respect across the galaxy. In response to the growing threat, the Zarnaks launched their final, most brutal assault. Their fleet descended upon Earth in full force, an armada so large it seemed to blot out the sky. Cities across the planet were bombarded, and the human resistance scrambled to defend their world. This was the moment the Zarnaks had been waiting for. One final decisive strike to crush the humans and their newfound allies. The battle raged across the Earth and in the skies above, as the human resistance, bolstered by their alien allies, fought back with everything they had. The Zarnak fleet was massive, and their firepower was overwhelming. But humanity's resolve was stronger than ever. Every human soldier, every fighter, was fueled by the knowledge that they were not just defending their planet. They were defending the freedom of the galaxy. The fight was fierce, and the casualties were immense, but humanity's forces fought with a determination that matched the size of the Zarnak fleet. They fought for their families, for their future, and for the worlds that had joined them in their struggle. For the first time, the Zarnaks were forced to fight a war on multiple fronts. The pressure was mounting, and they began to realize that they might not win this time. Human ingenuity, combined with the alien technology and strategies they had developed, turned the tide of the war. Humanity's resistance grew bolder with each passing day. Earth was no longer just a battlefield. It was a symbol, a beacon of hope for all the oppressed species in the galaxy. And the Zarnaks, though they were powerful, were starting to feel the weight of a rebellion that was no longer just a threat. It was a revolution. As the Zarnak fleet continued to push forward, the final battle loomed ever closer. The humans and their allies would have to make one last stand, one final effort to ensure their survival. With the odds stacked against them, humanity's resolve would be tested like never before. This part of the story escalates the conflict as the Zarnaks make their final push to crush humanity. However, humanity's growing alliance with other alien species shifts the balance of power. The stakes rise as Earth becomes the focal point of a galactic war, and the resistance prepares for the ultimate showdown. The suspense grows as the humans, backed by their newfound allies, prepare to face the Zarnak fleet in a battle that will determine the fate of the galaxy. Humanity's triumph. The final battle had arrived. The sky above Earth, once peaceful and clear, was now filled with the terrifying sights of the Zarnak fleet, a massive armada descending like a storm. Their warships, some larger than entire cities, unleashed torrents of destructive firepower, tearing apart everything in their path. Yet, below the chaos, humanity's resistance stood firm, united in a way the Zarnaks never thought possible. The Zarnak Empire had underestimated humanity from the beginning, and now that mistake was coming back to haunt them. The humans, no longer the primitive species they had once appeared to be, had become a force capable of shaking the very foundations of the galaxy. Every soldier, every civilian, every person who had fought for freedom was ready to make this final stand. The Earth had become a battlefield unlike any other. Massive space battles raged above, while on the ground, the resistance fought tooth and nail to hold off the Zarnak invaders. The human forces, bolstered by their new alien allies, had formed an army powerful enough to rival the Zarnak's best. But it wasn't just their weapons or their tactics that gave humanity the upper hand. It was their unyielding spirit, the determination to protect their world and their future. The Zarnak fleet, though vast, began to show signs of strain. The humans had learned from every previous encounter. They had studied the Zarnak's weaknesses, and now, with their alien allies, they were striking back in ways that surprise even the most seasoned Zarnak commanders. The Resistance had developed new technologies, new strategies, and new weapons that even the Zarnax hadn't seen before. One of the greatest victories came when a group of human pilots, led by a fearless commander named Sarah Lockwood, launched a daring assault against the Zarnax flagship. They infiltrated the Zarnak mothership using newly developed stealth technology, bypassing its advanced shields and defenses. They made their way to the heart of the ship, where the Zarnak command center was located. With expert precision, they planted explosives that would cripple the entire fleet. The explosion that followed was unlike anything the Zarnax had ever experienced. The flagship, along with a large portion of their fleet, was obliterated in a massive burst of light. The destruction was catastrophic, and the Zarnak commanders, stunned by the loss of their flagship and key military forces, were thrown into disarray. The remaining Zarnak forces began to falter, their once perfect coordination unraveling as panic set in. On the ground, the human resistance launched a full-scale counterattack, pushing the Zarnax back with every strike. Their alien allies, fueled by the hope that humanity's victory could mean freedom for their own people, fought alongside them with unmatched ferocity. The Zarnax, once so sure of their dominance, were now facing a united front that was more powerful than anything they had ever encountered. As the battle drew closer to its climax, the Zarnak fleet began to retreat, their forces overwhelmed by the combined might of the humans and their allies. They had underestimated humanity's ability to adapt, to learn, and to unite. What was once a small, vulnerable planet had now become the epicenter of a galactic uprising, and the Zarnak Empire, for the first time in centuries, was on the brink of collapse. In the final moments of the war, the remaining Zarnak forces began to surrender, realizing that their empire was no match for the resilience and unity of humanity. The humans had won, against all odds, against an empire that had once seemed invincible. The Zarnax, who had believed they could crush humanity in an instant, now found themselves defeated by the very species they had once scorned. The news of humanity's victory spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Species that had been oppressed for millennia, who had suffered under the Zarnak Empire, rejoiced in the news. Humanity had done what no one thought possible. They had not only survived, but they had triumphed. They had become the beacon of hope for all those who dreamed of freedom and justice in a galaxy once ruled by fear. The Zarnax, defeated and broken, retreated to the farthest corners of the galaxy. Their empire, once feared and invincible, was no more. And humanity, though scared from the war, stood proud. They had not only saved their world, but they had sparked a revolution that would forever change the fate of the galaxy. As the dust settled and the celebrations began, humanity knew that their work was far from over. There would be rebuilding, there would be healing, and there would be challenges ahead. But the humans had proven that no matter how dark the galaxy might get, there was always hope, always the possibility of a new beginning. For the first time, humanity stood as equals among the stars, and the galaxy would never forget the day that the deadliest species met their match.